This episode is brought to you by The Build, a new podcast from the guys behind Sincera, Mike O'Sullivan and Ian Myers. They built their company by figuring out clever solutions to a few important ad tech problems in their industry. And that's exactly what this show is about. Mike and Ian interview some of the smartest tech minds in the biz to hear about how they identified opportunities, solved their hardest challenges, and grew their businesses in the process. Listen to The Build with Mike O'Sullivan wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is sponsored by Plod AI. We've all been there. You're days away from a deadline and you remember a brilliant idea from a brainstorming session, but you can't find it in your notes. It's frustrating, confusing, and frankly, a waste of time. Recently, I've integrated Plod AI, that's P-L-A-U-D, into my daily workflow, and it's a game changer for staying organized. Plod isn't just an app, it's a hardware-software powerhouse. I use the Note Pro for phone calls, Note Pen for my in-person meetings, and the new Plod desktop app for all my virtual sessions. With one click, it records everything and generates an accurate, searchable transcript. But the real magic is the Ask Plod feature. I can literally ask questions about a meeting from 3 weeks ago and get an instant answer. It turns every conversation into a searchable asset for me and my team. Stop taking notes and focus. Turn your meetings into actionable insights with the world's most advanced AI note taker. Learn more at plod.ai. That's Plaud.ai. And use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, to get 10% off your purchase.
When you're starting something and you have this grand idea about what it's going to look like and you start going out into the market, people will give you ideas. Like once you start talking about what you're building, they're like, oh, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Did you think about this? And you don't think about all those things, but you're inspired by what you're hearing. As we're building out this MVP, there was so many directions that I wanted to go. I wanted to have it bilingual from the beginning. I wanted to have a Spanish version. I wanted it to be in all 50 states, this, that, and the other thing. But I had financial limitations. This was an in-kind investment into the company, which meant it wasn't dollars that I was working with, but it was just a scope of development. I'm Brooke Hipps, and I'm the founder of Weekend Will.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Brooke Hipps is helping you plan for the worst case scenario to save your family from unnecessary stress. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. Brooke Hipps currently lives in Fort Worth, Texas, but grew up down the road in DeSoto. She is an entrepreneur through and through, from the early years of learning from her parents to starting 3 businesses of her own in fashion, construction, and estate planning. Outside of tech, she has 3 kids, 1 out of college and 2 still in college. Brooke is an outdoorsy person, enjoying spending time in nature, hiking, camping, and playing around to golf every now and again. Recently, Brooke's sister passed away. Obviously, this was a difficult moment for her and her family. But what made it more difficult was that her sister didn't have a will. Brooke started asking the question, why not? And exploring building something to help Texans with writing a love letter to their surviving loved ones. This is the creation story of Weekend Will.
Weekend Will is a platform that helps Texans create, update, manage their estate planning documents. And we've started with the last will and testament because I think that is one of the base documents of certainly like a package of documents that I think every Texan needs to have ready should the unthinkable happen. It's a roadmap for your family. And historically, people have been left out of estate planning. I think it's historically been something that has been viewed as a tool for the wealthy, that you needed a huge estate or a lot of wealth or many properties or many businesses to have this document in place. And from my personal experience of losing my sister, I learned and discovered that's just not the case. And so I wanted a way to modernize what the current system was doing, which was going out, finding an attorney, spending thousands of dollars, and having this document that you don't update for another 20 years, which is simply not going to work. After she passed away, when she didn't have a will, I thought, why doesn't she have a will? Why don't I have a will? What does her not having a will really cost us? It caused turmoil in my family. It caused distress, it caused stress, it caused infighting. And it's those little things that really cause the biggest problems. And so what Weekend Will does is it just walks somebody through a process that sort of has been something that seemed inaccessible or confusing, and just helps the person get this document in place from the comfort of their home, on their couch, over a weekend. We wanted to demystify it and to simplify it so that there's more usership and that people have this document in place should the unthinkable happen. And we really wanted to leverage that technology, leverage the platform to bring the cost down for everybody. And I think that just helps the community. It helps build that starting financial literacy for people. And it just lets you leave a love letter. I call it leaving a love letter to your family. Just, hey, if something happens to me, here's what I want. Here are the things that are important to me. And here are the decisions that I want you to make and not Texas to make for me.
I'm curious about the MVP, so that first version of the product you built. How long did it take you to build, and what sort of tools, teams, or approaches were you using to bring it to life?
When I started having the idea, I was actually at TCU getting another degree and was thinking about this assignment, which was, what is something that you've encountered in your life that shouldn't have been so difficult? Immediately, I start thinking about my sister. And so I start thinking about well, what does that really look like? It looks like somebody getting onto a platform and us walking them through all the questions where they're not really seeing all the legalese, and just a simple, are you married? And funnel them into just breaking it down and making it a little bit more manageable where they're not overwhelmed. And so when we started, I had a in-kind donation to my startup fund. So in lieu of cash, I got to work with a company out of Dallas called CompSci, and we started working on the MVP, and I drew it all out just like on a pieces of paper, and that's really where it started. And then what I did learn about the MVP and what I think what I would have done different is not spend so long building out the MVP, but I spent a year doing it. And in retrospect, I've obviously learned that it could have been faster, and it probably should have been faster. It was out, and from that, and having people on the system and going out and talking to people about it from that earlier version, it hasn't changed too much, but certainly feedback from outsiders has helped drive what these next few versions are going to look like. And we've used, so I have one developer out of Dallas, and he's been getting, and he's awesome, and we've just built it from the ground up.
I want to stay on that for just a minute. I'm curious about, and I hear some, but I'm curious of which one you want to kind of elaborate on, but a decision or trade-off you had to make in creating that first version of the product. Maybe it's approach or, team or limitation or tech debt acceptance, all those things. Like, tell me about a decision you had to make and how you coped with it.
When you're starting something and you have this grand idea about what it's going to look like, and you start going out into the market, and people will give you ideas. Like, once you start talking about what you're building, they're like, oh, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Did you think about this? And you don't think about all those things, that you're inspired by what you're hearing. And as we're building out this MVP, there was so many directions that I wanted to go. I wanted to have it bilingual from the beginning. I wanted to have a Spanish version. I wanted it to be in all 50 states, this, that, and the other thing. But I had financial limitations. This was an in-kind investment into the company, which meant it wasn't dollars that I was working with, but it was just strictly a scope of development. So I really had to think about what the MVP was really going to do. And so it became just strictly a will, like a last will and testament for Texans. And so that's really where we've had to start. But as I've thought about that, and as we've gone through it, it's okay. That's okay. Just stay in your lane, get really good at it, get those wills, churned out for people in Texas, and then later on start building from there. So I think it was just tempering and holding back on trying to do too many things. We didn't have the funds for it, but that's not really what we should have been doing anyway. We should have been testing and improving just the simple will and just like starting there. So it ended up just changing my frame of mind about how I wanted it to come out, because I think you have these ideas that, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this. And just saying, okay, no, we're going to take a step back. It's going to be just the will product. And we're going to do it well, and we're going to learn everything about it, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to be good with that.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is brought to you by The Build, a new podcast from the guys behind Sincera, Mike O'Sullivan and Ian Myers. They built their company by figuring out clever solutions to a few important ad tech problems in the industry, and that's exactly what this show is about. Mike and Ian interview some of the smartest tech minds at Magnite, Chalice, DoubleClick, and LiveRamp to hear about how they identified opportunities, solved their hardest challenges, and grew their businesses in the process. This show is for you if you've had some of these breakthrough moments yourself, or if you're seeking inspiration for the next one. Listen to The Build with Mike O'Sullivan wherever you get your podcasts. So then you've got the MVP, it's working the way that you want it to, and you start getting that feedback, right? You've got that core decision you just described, you start getting the feedback from people that you want. How did you mature it, or how are you maturing it and progressing it? And to wrap in a question in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is, how do you build your roadmap? How do you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Weekend Will?
Because I have experience of building before, I understand what scope creep is, especially coming from my construction background, running the construction company for 8 years prior to this. It is a classic problem when you go and you work with a client, and it's the same thing I just described, like, we want this. Oh, but we want this. But, oh, can you just add that plug? Oh, but I would really like a window added here. And then it just blows up. You blow the budget. You do anyway. The scope creep, it's real and it's easy to get going. But I think what you have to do is you really have to listen to the market. You have to listen to those other stakeholders, the people that you think would use your product, and see really what they want and what they need. And so how it's come about for Weekend Will is that as we went into the market and we started talking to people that showed some strategic partnerships that we wanted to work with. This is the problem in rural towns in Texas, is that it's executorship. So somebody loses a family member and they've been named an executor of an estate. That is a very complex undertaking that you may do once or twice in your entire life, and it's not something that we talk about. So I think when you're given this title that you're an executor of closing out somebody's estate, it's overwhelming and it's confusing. And so that's probably the next part of our roadmap, is building an executorship. Also, like, getting bilingual. We know that Texas, in the Valley, where our Spanish speakers are, were disproportionately affected by COVID and not having wills in place during the pandemic. So I really wanted to reach that segment of the community and have something there for them in their own native language. Just going out and finding out what the real need is, because they'll tell you and you will figure it out. Something where I was thinking, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, has evolved because of what people on the streets have actually said. These are the things that we see our community struggling with. And so then you build based on that.
So I'm curious about team, and you mentioned earlier that you have a developer that's been with you from the beginning. How did you choose that developer? And maybe even future looking, how are you going to go about expanding the team, and what you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
Because of the way that my funding has come through, which is the in-kind funding of development, I was just paired with this developer. And for us to have the relationship that we have, we've been very lucky, and it's worked out, and we work really well together. And so that's been really great. But I know that as we grow, we're going to have to add more people. And honestly, Noah, this is something that I don't know what it's really going to look like in the future, because I've been doing it by myself for a year. And so I don't really know. I can't answer that question about what my team is really going to look like. But I'm going to say that I like to work together and be open with ideas. And so somebody that joins the team is going to have to be that sort of person, a collaborative person who really understands, and maybe really understands really what we're trying to do, which is take something that's been accessible for so many people in the state and allow them to find a way to get this document done. Being a teammate with CompSci has been incredible, and I had an attorney that worked with me for a while and consulted. We've had a lot of great consultants, but I don't know what the future looks like for the next first team member that we put onto the team, but I'm excited about what that possibility could look like.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. So I'm curious about scalability. How are you going to go about scaling this to the masses, right? And the masses, Texas is a big state if you just focus on Texas, but even beyond that, I'm curious, maybe there's a technology aspect. Also, there's a business aspect. How are you going to do that? And do you anticipate interesting areas where you're going to have to fight it as you grow?
Right now, the way that our strategy is currently is that we are looking to build a base here in Fort Worth. I think it's easy to think, oh, I need to be here, I need to be there. But what if I just went out and said, we own Fort Worth. We have every company here. We have this many people from all of these companies that have their employees that use Weekend Will for their estate planning documents. But that being said, we are going to need to add other states, and every state varies by their regulatory, what they need inside of a last will and testament. And we are starting to look at Oklahoma. We're going to start with the states that are touching Texas. And I think there are technological ways that you get to be into other states faster than what we're currently doing. But we're just taking an approach right now of working inside of those states with local people, as opposed to going through technology to make it state to state. Because of the sensitive gray area, the regulatory gray area, it's easy to come into those spaces and really make people angry or make the attorneys mad where they're started putting up legal roadblocks for you, because it is a gray area and we are encroaching into some people's bread and butter. And so we have taken a slower approach to scaling state to state for that very reason. We've actually had to face our own regulatory issues here of being, facing an accusation of practicing law without a license. And those are things that we just didn't anticipate, but have slowed us down. And so as we're talking about scaling, we know it's possible. We know it's going to happen. We know that there are 11 states in the union that are now executing their will documents completely online. We know that the future is this company, but we're willing to understand that regulatory doesn't always keep up with tech, and we're not going to ruffle any feathers on the way to doing that. We're willing to just be here in Texas, really build it out, really make it strong, and slowly seep out into the rest of the United States.
Okay, so as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built thus far with Weekend Will, what are you most proud of?
So I am most proud of the people that are using it, the companies that have taken a chance on us and brought in Weekend Will as an employee benefit, as an employer paid benefit for all of their employees to tell their people, we care about you here while you're in the office, but we care about you into perpetuity. We care about your family. We care about you when you're not here. And so we want you to get this document in place. We want you to have Weekend Will as a part of your employment package because they see the value in it. And that's what I'm super proud of, that we've built something that is bringing value to our communities, like to the employers, to the employees, to Weekend Will, to the communities. Starting those financial literacy questions, when you start your will and you start taking a look at everything that you own, all of your assets, all of your debts, you talk about guardianship and you put some really important pieces together for yourself and for your family. And the way that we've opened it up to have more people be able to afford it, that is what I'm most proud of.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
First of all, I don't have a tech background. I made a mistake early on with purchasing and getting involved with people, I think, where it seemed really easy. Everybody is saying, you don't have to have a tech background. You don't have to have any money to start something anymore. And not really vetting some of those early partnerships that I had when I was like having an idea to do this. And spending some money on that, on some early development that if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. You take the licks and you have to learn from them. And you're just like, I screwed up, whatever, let's move on. And it's been a lot of that, and just not knowing what you don't know. But I had the capacity for it, so it worked out. But you're going to make mistakes, and that's part of the deal. And so I knew it was going to happen, and there's going to be mistakes still that are going to be made, but you just have to, if this is your goal, if this is what you want to do, you just find a way to get through it.
This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Your coding agents have access to your code base. Maybe you even connected other tools via MCPs, but access doesn't mean context. Agents can't reason across MCPs. They don't know your architectural decisions, your team's patterns, or why the API was shaped the way it is. So agents look in the wrong place and deliver bad outputs. Then you spend time correcting. More loops, more tokens. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. Let's move into the future then. This will be exciting. What does the future look like for Weekend Will? All the things you have planned for it as you move forward for the product, the company, and for your team.
So I'm looking forward to adding some more essential documents to the site. And just being a one-stop shop, we really want people to come in and have a relationship with the platform. Have everything in one place. Have it in the vault. Have your documents there where you know that they're safe. There's not going to be any couch will debacles with Weekend Will. So we're excited about adding to the site, making it, having even more features there for everyone, and getting it in another language, getting it our Spanish version, moving into Oklahoma, getting an executor package together. We're working on that right now, which is, I alluded to it, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but you're going to name an executor as you go through the platform. Let's help that executor also. Let's give them a set of tools to tell them, this is what that means for you. And these are the things that you're going to have to do when your time is called to be this executor. It's an honorable position. It's something that comes with responsibility. We want to make that process easier for the executors. And we're excited. We're having a year of getting out there and talking about it and introducing ourselves to the community, into the business community, and working through this regulatory issue that's almost closed. So I'm excited to be able to talk about that and just go out with even more confidence than I had before about we're here, we're going to grow, and we want you to use Weekend Will to get protected. So I'm really excited about the next chapter of Weekend Will.
Let's switch to you, Brooke. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
So my parents are entrepreneurs and my grandpa was an entrepreneur. And so I grew up pushing against that because, I don't know, I was just living it for my whole life. I went into fashion and I was like, I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. But like now I'm finally, this is what it is. This is actually who I am. And I would say that watching my parents have a 2,000 person company and starting and cutting my teeth in that space and just watching them day in and day out, like love business and also take the hit. And they never made us afraid or made us feel like we weren't going to be okay as long as we had family. Like, I don't know, like I just watched them weather many storms over their careers of being entrepreneurs and even closing down and having an exit out of a company that wasn't maybe what they were expecting or thought. There were difficult times, but I just always saw them keep their composure, pivot, find a way. And they never lost their passion for building. And it just finally, it rubbed off on me and I accepted it. And so watching them just have these companies and still they're older now and they're still entrepreneurial. And that's now I can say an inspiration to me. And I've completely embraced entrepreneurship and business. I never thought, I pushed against it for so long. I don't want to be in business. But it just brings me joy in a way that I never expected or thought. But it's because of them, because of what I grew up watching.
Last question, Brooke. So you're getting on a plane. You're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. Can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person? Having grown up in this and having started 3 businesses of your own, what advice do you give them?
It can be lonely. This has been lonely at times, and you have to surround yourself with people that understand what you're doing. So you need to find your people, and you're going to have a lot of rejection, and just don't take it personal. And you have to do the hard things. And once you get out of your comfort zone, that's really where the magic happens. And that's the advice that I would give. Never quit. It's the people that just hold on a little bit longer that make it.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Brooke, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Weekend Will.
Yes, thank you so much.
And this concludes another chapter of Coat Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love. It helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.